Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. It's the 5th of November. I'm Bobby Trossett. This is my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison, and today's show is brought to you by our friends at Wellness Plus Care. More on them in just a bit. If you're interested in learning more right now, you can visit the show notes and the comment that we have pinned right now in our live chat. We will have a featured guest dropping by at 12:45, about 40 minutes or so from right now. And that's all things Vikings. It's Matthew Coller. He is a Minnesota insider, and we're looking forward to bringing him on at 12:45 to dive into Week 10, which is coming up on Sunday. But Sarah, first, on the collective last night, the Athletics' Jeff Zrebiec, I thought, provided a lot of great, as always, commentary and perspective on what did and didn't happen as the deadline came and went yesterday. The annual NFL trade deadline, the Ravens were quiet on the final day, but as we all know, there was activity leading up to the 4th of November, and I thought Jeff kind of sharing who the Ravens were specifically in on was an interesting way to start today's show. After that, we'll talk about a number of other things, including asking some questions, some tough questions, looking at Eric DeCosta. Did he miss? Did he do enough? And was there one specific player, a New York Jet, that went elsewhere that he probably could have or should have or would he have taken a swing on? All that more coming up. Anything that I missed in terms of the rundown before we dive in?
Not necessarily the rundown, but we should just say that just a few moments ago, it was announced that Lamar Jackson was named the AFC Offensive Player of the Week after he put up a very efficient 218 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. I mean, it's just so funny. It's just so funny because Bobby, there's no way he went all out in that game. He was not like having to push himself. He wasn't running around. He just was so smooth. He was rusty for one throw in the first series on third down to Rashad Bateman, where he threw him short. Then after that, he locked in, and he didn't have to be Superman, and yet he kind of put up Superman type numbers with 4 passing touchdowns on the way back from 32 or 33 days of nursing his hamstring injury. So Lamar Jackson really went on that field, just like the Ravens, Twitter account said, and he just sent a message telling the whole NFL world, I am back. He is officially back.
It's the 14th Player of the Week honor of his historic career, 8 years and counting. And to your point, when you get the mini bye on top of not having to use a lot of or feel like you had to use your mobility on that Thursday night game, hopefully that bodes well for where he's at health-wise coming up on Sunday in Minnesota. I thought Derek Coleman was really good in terms of suggesting they might need more from him in terms of the dual threat nature and the threat that he possesses, and obviously commands when it comes to what the opponent has to do defensively to try and stymie him. So go check that out if you haven't already done so. The All-22 Ravens film analyst joined us yesterday, and it was one of our recent repurposed videos. So as we kind of transition to the aftermath of the deadline, yes, there will be opportunities moving forward, Sarah, through the waiver wire. Perhaps some veterans could become available in the coming weeks on teams that aren't going anywhere, and teams are trying to do right by their guys as they chase championships. But I think we all know that that's typically only modest acquisitions at best, certainly not needle moving like a lot of teams chased after yesterday. And as you see up on the screen, just to recap it quickly, it began last month. Odafe Oweh was traded to the Chargers for Alohi Gilman. There was a pick swap in there as well. They went ahead and signed Carl Lawson, the veteran outside linebacker. This past weekend, they traded Jaire Alexander to Philadelphia and got a 6th in exchange for that, on top of the Ravens' 7th, which also went to Howie Roseman and the Eagles. We're going to have more on that in just a bit. Dre'Mont Jones comes from Tennessee. That's in exchange for a conditional 5th, which could be upgraded to a 4th. And yes, as you noted here at the bottom of the graphic, we learned yesterday mid-live stream that they've released Sanusi Kane, their former 7th-round pick out of Purdue, who was primarily a special teamer. And they've promoted, in a corresponding move, Keandre Jackson, a former undrafted rookie who's balled out in a small sample size, Sarah, as a game day practice squad elevation. So that's where we're at. Where should we begin from here?
Well, obviously, we've reviewed all of these other trades already. We went, as you mentioned, deep into the weeds with Dre'Mont Jones yesterday with the film study. So I think what a lot of people are talking about was the trade that was not made by the Ravens and instead was made by the Cowboys, and that was for defensive tackle Quinnen Williams. So the Cowboys reportedly sent to New York a 2026 second-round pick plus their 2027 first-round pick. Then a current player that they had that's now a Jet is Mozzie Smith. Can you imagine being Mozzie Smith right now, by the way? Let me just be traded over to the New York Jets while they're selling off all their stars. And I got to go over there to this just dumpster of a season that's going on. And like, I'm on the other end of this. And I made my opinion clear yesterday, Bobby, that I felt like this was an overpay. And I think that sometimes you can justify overpaying players. There are times that you can do that. I do not think this was one of those times. I think that I wanted Eric DeCosta get an interior defensive lineman. I still wish he was able to do that. You didn't re-sign Michael Pearson, didn't really adequately replace him. Nnamdi Madubuike is out for the season. And now Washington just had a surgery on an Achilles area. John Harbaugh said it wasn't a full tear, but it's a surgery. It's November. There's not high hopes that he's going to come back and save anything. And so I can absolutely criticize Eric DeCosta for not getting an interior defensive lineman, but I will not criticize him for giving up resources for these are resources for somebody that is an absolute game wrecker, is going to put you over the top to win a Super Bowl. I don't believe that's Quinnen Williams, and I like Quinnen Williams. We named him as a guy that we were kind of hoping the Ravens would go after. But you're going up against the Cowboys, who had a boatload. What do they have, like 4 first-rounders? Like, they have so many resources to spare. I don't want to get in a bidding war with somebody like that for a guy. Now, let me put it this way. Again, I really like Quinnen Williams. I think he's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. Do I think that, let's say over the last 2 years, he's played better than Nnamdi Madubuike? I don't know that I'd go that far. The Ravens had Nnamdi Madubuike, and he was not the person that got the Ravens to the Super Bowl. He certainly got them, helped them get, to the divisional round, or in 2023 to the AFC Championship round. So if you're getting Quinnen Williams, who hasn't been playing recently up to his standard, and maybe he will, but these are projections that GMs have to make. And I'm all for being aggressive or even overpaying if you feel like this dude is a game wrecker. I would have loved to have had him here, but I can't sit here and say, oh, they're for sure going beyond the divisional round with Quinnen Williams. And then so what happens? What happens if either they don't make the playoffs, which I think they will, but let's say like they made it to the playoffs and got knocked out divisional round. So now you have Quinnen Williams, who again is a very, very good player. I don't want to say that, but I don't see him as a game wrecker. I don't see him as the piece to put them over the top. You've got his numbers right here from PFF, 90.6 PFF grade. From what time period is this, Bobby?
This is since 2022, so I'm just throwing up what you've already acknowledged. I mean, you've acknowledged that this guy's a heck of a player. Is he going to come in and immediately fix what the Ravens are dealing with right now within the defense? That's not fixable with one player. Period.
No, and so let's say you get knocked out in the divisional round and you're just as upset as you always were, and then now you don't have a first and second round pick over the next 2 years. Then on top of it, because we talked about this a little bit yesterday, right now, here's what the Ravens are playing on the cap for the interior defensive lineman. Obviously, Nnamdi's on IR. You can predict that, right? That can happen with anybody. But he's $16.4 million of the cap. Broderick Washington is 4.6, and you have Travis Jones. The 2 highest paid interior defensive linemen are $20 million, and they're gone. But now let's go into the future. Nnamdi Madubuike. I don't know if he'll be back next year. I don't know if his career is over. So what I did is look at his cap hit if he does come back. Next year, he'd be $31 million. And then 2027, he's $31 million again. Okay. If he doesn't come back, you are next year $51.9 million in dead cap. And then in 2027, you're $20 million. Now you can play with those numbers in terms of like moving it around, but you have to, if he's not playing again, you have to find a way to spread out $70 million over the next 2 years. And if he is coming back, you're still paying him $60 million. So now you add on top of that Quinnen Williams, who over the next 2 years is going to make $46 million. So at this position, you're going to have tied up at best, if he's able to still play, $100 million at one position. And then you're going to have fans being like, oh, well, EDC believes in spending money on the defense. How many times have we heard that gripe? But why don't they put more people around Lamar Jackson? So when you talk about a first round pick, a second round pick, and then adding $40 million on top of either 60 or 70, depending on the dead money or if he comes back to play, like it's just too much for Quinnen Williams, who again is a great player, but I don't believe is going to guarantee you a Super Bowl bid. And so like if it were somebody who I think was a game wrecker, who would, you know what? Divisional round, you're up against Josh Allen or you're up against Patrick Mahomes and he's going to beat his guy. Like Micah Parsons was available, right? Somebody like that, okay, I can maybe overpay for somebody who I think is just going to blow it up if it was like a Myles Garrett, which is not available, or a Max Crosby, who's not available. So, yes, I agree you can overspend at times, but boy, if you're going to gamble, you better believe you better make sure you're right. And I don't think Quinnen Williams was that guy.
Lost in all this, Sarah, the mass hysteria that's, I shouldn't say mass, but a certain percentage of this fan base is at a loss for words for the lack of activity or inactivity in the final day. That obviously doesn't erase what they've done. We had the graphic earlier on over the last few weeks in terms of the full collective effort made by bringing in Alohi and trading Jaire and then Dre'mont, of course, just a couple of days ago. Lost in all of this is the simple idea of wondering, did the Ravens do enough to instill the confidence in Eric DeCosta to go out and act aggressive, overly aggressive? Meaning, yes, they could very well still make the playoffs. Obviously, we're going to have the latest call sheet graphic for you, Sarah, coming up later on in terms of where they're at. Even to win the AFC, they still have better chances to win the AFC than, according to call sheet, than several other divisional owners right now, or divisional leaders, let's call it. But that's seriously though. Did the Ravens do enough, show enough, prove enough that Eric DeCosta and his front office should have gone out and acted recklessly or overly aggressive at the deadline? I say no. No. And I don't think that's all that different than what you're getting at right here.
I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I came from it from a look at all these resources. I don't know that he's the guy to get him over to the Super Bowl. And you're coming it from of like, my team is 3-5. Should I really, like, maybe if we were like, I don't know, flip it 5-3 or something, like make me believe that I can make this worth it. Yeah. But there's such an uphill climb. Okay. But I want to be clear about something. While you and I agree with his decision on Quinnen Williams, I think it's important to have the conversation where we would criticize Eric DeCosta. Like, where would you and where would you not criticize him? That's a conversation I think we should have. I don't know if you want to go first or if you want me to go first.
Yeah, we could also throw Jeff in here as well and give ourselves a chance to.
Oh, there's that too. Let's do that first. Let's do that first. Okay.
All right, perfect. Because I think this is a great segue. Jeff on the collective last night, exceptional. If you guys haven't already checked it out, would love for you to do so after the vault. 8:00 Eastern on Tuesday nights. Jeff Zrebeck, Cole Jackson, and myself. And Jeff talked about the Dre'mont Jones acquisition, but also mentioned a couple Dolphins specifically by name. One who the Ravens were, to use his words, in on. The other who ended up in Philadelphia, what their thinking was in terms of how all that went down. Here's a snippet from last night.
This is the guy they wanted. Sometimes you settle for a guy because he's the guy available and why not? And he's the most attainable. I'm not saying he necessarily was their number one choice. I'm not sure that he was, but I think of the guys available, he was one of their top choices. I know they were in on Bradley Chubb. I think they felt, where the asking price was and everything. I know they really like the versatility Dre'Mont Jones brings and the physicality he plays with, how he can move inside in certain spots. I think they like Jalen Phillips, who we saw go for a 3. But when they compared the difference between what they'd have to give up to get him and then what they could get in Jones to get him, I don't think they thought it was a big enough gap to warrant 2 extra rounds in the draft. So I think they really got the guy they want. I'd imagine in the next, and I haven't even had a chance, guys, obviously I was throwing out calls and texts during it, but people are reluctant to pick up the phone before the deadline's over for obviously reasons. Everyone's working something. So I haven't really got a chance to check in with people after the deadline elapsed. I had to write a story, and then I'm joining you fellas. But I'd be interested to see if they're disappointed that they weren't able to do more, or if it was just abundantly clear there was nobody out there that they felt like really was a difference maker compared to what the asking price was. And this is something else that Warren's saying, and God, I mean, I know people are on edge and they don't want to hear about waiver claims, but after the trade deadline, everyone is subject to waivers. And usually the way the waiver order works is record. The Ravens wouldn't stand a chance of getting anybody to fall to them. Remember that year where Terrell Suggs was put on waivers because he wanted out and he wanted to come to the Ravens, but the Chiefs had a worse record, the Ravens, and they got him. The Ravens are in position now. Some teams who are playing out the string out of veteran courtesy let veterans go at this time of year. And the Ravens are in a waiver position where there might be a defensive lineman that falls that they could get just for a waiver claim. Again, nobody's hoping for that. Nobody's saying that that's what they're counting on. I'm just saying, when you look at the whole picture, there is another element of player acquisition, and that could be it.
Okay. Lots to unpack there, Sarah, from last night's collective, but let's start with the elephant in the room there. Jeff, first of all, and chronologically, he was like, hey, Ravens felt like they got the player they wanted in terms of what was right from an investment standpoint, draft capital, so on and so forth, and Dre'Mont Jones, who joins them, probably going to play right away on Sunday, having played for Tennessee this year, prior to that in Seattle. But they were in on Dolphins star pass rusher Bradley Chubb, who they just saw on Thursday night, according to Jeff. And then he also made that comment on Jalen Phillips, who goes to Philadelphia for a 3rd, something the Ravens weren't willing to give up. Your thoughts on that snippet from last night?
Yeah, well, it sounds like the Ravens made moves that were on their terms. And so, as he said there, based off of what he's hearing with his, reporting, is that they got who they wanted this was the exercise we went through yesterday, where we put side by side Jalen Phillips and Dre'Mont Jones. And it was obviously a better deal for Jones, but Phillips is the better player. And so, but is he so much better that he was worth a 3rd rounder? And that's, to me, when I was looking at it side by side, I was like, look at the production from both and the risk with both. There were Phillips had missed 35 games since he came into the league in 2021. I'm glad you have it. There it is. Let's bring this back up. Let me put my
glasses
glasses
are coming
on.
off. Let's go.
The glasses are coming back on. So Jalen Phillips, 3rd round pick, compared to a conditional 5th for Dre'Mont Jones, or up to a 4th. 1.25 million on the Eagles cap versus 1.2 for the Ravens cap. Dre'Mont had more sacks. They had the same quarterback hits. Phillips has way more pressures, 32-19. About the same amount of tackles. Dre'Mont edges them out in tackles for loss. 1 fumble recovery for each. One's missed 30 games. That would be Phillips since 2021. One's missed 5 games. I mean, production-wise, they're very similar. Ceiling-wise, Phillips probably has more talent, more explosion for sure. but the production is what it is. And then they're looking at the risk of who's going to be more available. So I don't mind them dictating these terms and saying, you know what, we're going to go to Dre'Mont Jones for a 5th rather than a 3rd. And I'm assuming they did the same with Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb, I would take over both of these guys, but they're probably looking at, again, at the price. Am I really getting that much more for the extra price that they're trying to get? So, it sounds like they ended up who they wanted with, but I'm with Jeff though. He wants to ask more questions because I'm very curious. Are they disappointed they didn't get an interior guy? I'm fine with these choices on the outside, and I'm fine with passing on Quinnen Williams at that price. But where's the interior guy? They need an interior guy. Like, where's the Dre'Mont Jones type trade or the Alohi Gilman type trade for interior defensive linemen? If I still have a gripe this morning, it's that. Like, and I hope Jeff can get to the bottom of that. Like, who were you trying to target as an interior defensive lineman, and why wasn't it done? And maybe it's just that nobody else was available. I don't know.
A subscriber in our live chat a couple minutes ago, Brandon, wrote that EDC is crippling the organization. Can we acknowledge that if he is to act out of emotion or desperation for a 3-5 team, that would actually be crippling the future of the organization?
And emotional.
He can't be reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, he can't look at what the Ravens have put out on tape through 9 weeks, 8 games, Sarah, and feel like this is a Super Bowl contending team. With all of that said, to get back to what you wanted to set up prior to Jeff, he is not above criticism. And I have several questions that I think should be asked both pre and post deadline for Eric and his front office. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. 1, why continue to take flyers on injured players? David Ojabo being one. I'm talking about in the draft. David Ojabo being maybe the biggest headliner of them all. Andrew Voorhees may end up being in that category before it's all said and done. 2, why is there a consistent struggle to hit on / maybe even develop, going back to earlier this week, outside linebacker? Why Cooper Rush? A player that, yes, I thought gave them the best chance to win when Lamar went down. Clearly not. I was wrong. Why no adequate replacement for Kevin Zeitler, which goes back years now? Why was Keaton Mitchell without a role for a good chunk of this season?
That's more John Harbaugh.
Perhaps.
That's not EDC. That's John Harbaugh. He's on the roster.
I'm putting all the brass in.
But I want to be specific. Let's talk about EDC.
Okay. Why no Lamar extension? That's a conversation for another time. Those are my questions.
Yeah, the Lamar extension.
It has
to be this next season. It has to be the next season. But I'm with you on all those minus the final 2. I'm giving him this next offseason for Lamar. Okay. Here's what I do criticize him for. Not trading for an interior defensive lineman of modest value, which I just talked about that. Where's the Dre'Mont Jones or the Alohi Gilman for an interior defensive lineman? I do criticize him for that. Not replacing Michael Pierce adequately in the offseason, because once Nomney went down, and they're 2 different players, but Michael Pierce at least would still be helping if he were around. There just wasn't a seriousness. And I've said that since the offseason. I've been saying that. Not building around the guard, not building the guard position. That one really bothers me, because we knew what we had with Daniel Fa'alele, and we knew what we had with Ben Cleveland and his relationship with John Harbaugh. We didn't quite know what we had with Voorhees. So you should have had better competition there. That one really bothers me. And then this one it doesn't bother me as much as the offensive guard position, but like you said, missing too many times on outside linebacker, although I do give him Atavius Robinson. And I agree with you on taking these flyers on injured players. So those are the things. This is what I'm upset about. Why is it that when you lost Michael Pierce, you are now in a position where people are mad that you didn't mortgage the future for Quinnen Williams. People are mad here at the trade deadline of like, why didn't you get a guard? Well, there really wasn't one available. There was one guard trade, I think, and it was not somebody who I think was going to be better for they weren't going to get the Ravens to the Super Bowl, right?
That was at the tail end, and it was for the Chargers. They went and brought in Trevor Penning from New Orleans. He's not played well. And as we talked about, the Chargers are desperate right now because they lost Joe Alt this week,
right,
and they lost Rashawn Slater on the opposite side of their line going back to the summer. Just want to give
perfect clarity. Thanks for giving the details on that. That's great. So to me, it's less about what didn't get done at the deadline and why you're in this position anyway. Like, listen, I don't put Nnamdi went down. That's not on him. Michael Pierce replacement is not doing that adequately enough. And not getting a guard at the trade deadline. Well, we all knew that people don't like, again, Zeitler probably wasn't available. They still have Cam Ward, their franchise quarterback. You can't trade him away and then put your franchise quarterback at risk. People don't give up offensive linemen, quality offensive linemen at the deadline. So I'm less angry about his decisions at the deadline and more upset about what wasn't done in the offseason when you wouldn't have had to have mortgaged your future. You wouldn't have had to say, we wouldn't have to have this conversation, should you give it up a first and a second? Well, just go pay somebody in the offseason without having to give up first and second round picks, because we know that that's not going to happen. That's more where I would be critical of him. But in terms of crippling the organization, and Bobby, I do, because people are so upset. We probably should read some of these super chats and at a break after the ad read, because I do want to give people their opinions out there. But like, the Ravens had a Super Bowl roster in 23 and 24. And so I feel like the coaches and the players didn't play up to their potential in those two years. I don't put that on EDC. I do put more of this roster on EDC because of stuff he could have done in the offseason and chose not to do.
I think that's a perfect summary. And perhaps as some look themselves in the mirror today to try to make sense of the frustration and anger and emotions that were running rampant yesterday, perhaps some of that, as you reflect on it, is related to what wasn't done months back versus and just started to compound and snowball yesterday because of a slow final day leading up to the deadline. I think that's really well said. I've displayed every single super chat. So let's get into some that we want to read. To your point, I think Isaiah is a good one. He says, Ravens fans were just praising EDC for his offseason additions. Now he's crippling the team. We can't move like the Commanders and end up with a bunch of big names who suck and no draft picks. Capybara.
We've needed a run stuffer since Pierce. It's disappointing that EDC couldn't find a way to address that. We swapped a linebacker and gained a safety while teams are rushing 8 yards per carry against us. We'll see.
And while I read Max, why don't you start scrolling up to see if there's another one that sticks out to you. Mac writes, Matabike may never play another snap in the NFL. Our pass rush has been non-existent, and our offensive line has given us trauma. EDC has not put us in a great position. Forget the draft picks, man.
Let's see. Evan says, with edge rusher and defensive line, I think EDC was bullish on OA and KVN. Both had 10+ sacks last year. Couldn't foresee Beaks and Tavius getting hurt. Travis has had a slow start. He has come on recently, but I think that's good context from Evan here.
He's also getting his arse double teamed every other play, it feels like, in the interior part there. Dre Dog says, by the way, Dre is, I think, getting his, don't take this the wrong way, Dre. You're getting your 24 hours of fame right now, aren't you? Garnett in the Twitter space clipped Dre Dog's rant on my show last night, and he went off, like went out of character for 30 seconds. That my man had a alter ego personality show up yesterday. He was running hot, and it was actually a really fun, epic rant. Anyway, Dre Dog writes, the exception of Mike Green, who's a rookie. What success have the Ravens had with second-round picks? Come on now. These are not Super Bowl moves. Rinse and repeat with this franchise. Shaking my gosh darn head. Tired of seeing this. J.K. Dobbins, that's a hit in the second round for starters. That's a hit. Was it their fault? It was John Harbaugh. It's hard to pin the ACL tear on anybody specifically. Yes, he shouldn't have been playing in the preseason, but Sarah, That was a decision that they were doing team-wide at that point back in, what was it, 2020? It's hard to pin that. JK was a hit, man. Look at him now. He's resurrected his career. That's a hit in the second round, if you ask me.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. Yeah.
Any
Dreams
stick out to you?
Dreams saying that you have to be aggressive sometimes in this league. I agree. I think the time was to be aggressive in the offseason, not to mortgage all your draft picks. We're in year 8 of LJ, and we haven't been in the Super Bowl since 2012. Time's ticking. Agree with that last sentiment. Again, more sentiments of wasting Lamar's prime years from Jay Nizzle here. It will be very disappointing if he doesn't get a Super Bowl. Bobby, Captain Hard?
Yeah, and folks are saying that the JK is not on the team. You guys are missing the point. You can't keep everybody. And when they let him go, you can't criticize the team for letting him go. Eric Hill writes, in case no one tells you today they love you, just know that I do. Driving at the moment, so I'll just be listening. Hashtag stop to 22. Hashtag LJ8 for MV3. Hashtag be safe. Appreciate you, Eric. Matty Boom is here, and he says, Bobby's the GOAT. Sarah's looking beautiful as always. Anyway, we sign Wilkins or Samuel. I think it would make a lot of sense. Any others stick out to you, partner?
Let me see. I think Maurice, at least, is probably saying what a lot of people are saying. I think we cleared space. Oh, no, that's not what I thought the end of it was. And he said, and money for a new head coach next year. That's not how that works. Let's see. I just want to give a shout out to Douglas with the 50 burger. We got an email from him last night saying he couldn't be here, but he always wants to support. And so just a shout out to him for always, even when he can't make it because of work, he's always here to support. And so we just appreciate people like him and Eric Hill and everybody who, even if it's not like a 50 burger, just everybody that's here every day to support the channel. We really appreciate that.
Not to mention, we've also appreciated some feedback from a lot of you who maybe don't catch us in real time that appreciate the super chat donors for bringing what they do to the show, but also appreciate, Sarah, a decision that we made recently just to kind of kick it into high gear a little bit more, to be more polished, be more paced. And thanks for the feedback that continues to pour in. As always, you guys can email us at BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com with more if you'd like. Thanks to Wellness Plus Care for the continued support of the program. Brenda Boggs and her tremendous team located in Hunt Valley have been supporting and sponsoring this program all season long, and that continues. Wellness Plus Care is a full-service clinic focused on hormone therapy, medical weight loss, skin rejuvenation, IV therapy, peptide therapy, and genetic testing. Every care plan is personalized, and each patient works directly with the same provider. You're not just a number there. They got a simple mission. They want to help men and women restore energy, confidence, and long-term vitality. Brenda is the owner and medical director of Wellness Plus Care. She's got a bio up on this site that you can go click into and learn more. They also have Google reviews that you can look at. And Sarah and I feel like, we pick a different part of this site to explore every single one. So we'll have to figure out what today's is in just a second. But Brenda is a family nurse practitioner with over 34 years of patient care experience. And right now, if you go and let them know that you're a VAULTRON, or you just want to call them and tell them that you're a VAULTRON at 410-202-3863, there's a couple incentives out there that are on the table for you. One, you can get 20% off your first testosterone treatment. And or two, at Wellness Plus Care, they're going to give you tirzepatide, your first week of it, for $40 to try out and see if it's right for you. There, your cost for, again, that's GLP-1. Tirzepatide is GLP-1. It's $235 a month for the standard dose. Brenda and her team are willing to give it to you for $40 for the first week to try it out. See if it's the right fit. Again, personalized care plans, all that and more is what they do. What should we check out today, Sarah?
I would like to check out what Gentle Max Pro Plus is all about.
All righty, here we go. Say goodbye to frequent waxing appointments and hello to smooth, long-lasting results with the advanced Gentle Laser by Candela, now available at Wellness Plus Care.
I love it. Why choose it? Wrinkle reduction, benign pigmented lesions, vascular lesions, spider and leg veins. I am not going to, I dare you to try to say that word. Pseudo folliculitis. I think I did it. pseudophylactivitis.
Heck yeah. Get it.
That's great. Look at that.
Yep.
No, that's great, man. Anything to like just keep healthy. Man.
And some good before afters too, right? They give you real world, real life examples here. After 3 treatments, after 1 treatment, you can do the before after. Give yourself a look, take a thorough synopsis, and see what's going on at Wellness Plus Care. We appreciate them for their continued support. You can give them a call, 410-202-3863, wellnesspluscare.com if you're interested in learning more. And if you're in the Hunt Valley area, Owings Mills area, it's right around the corner. So thanks to them for their continued support. Where to next, partner?
Well, just a couple of things to finish up our last topic, just because we were talking about Quinnen Williams. Can we just talk about the Jets right now? Oh my gosh. After trading out what Diana Rossini, she talks to a league source, and this league source said the Jets took a top 5 defense and tore it apart. So here's their reward for tearing apart a top 5 defense. They have 2 first-round picks. Are these 2 extra first-round picks? This is what they got on top of. I'm sure they already get their own first-round pick. Then they got 2 more second-round picks from their trades yesterday. Then in 2027, they got 3 first-round picks from their trades yesterday. That's on top of just like their regular first-round picks and second-round picks. That's insane. And here's what's funny is like if the Ravens had that, or like the Steelers had that, or the Chiefs, or any of these teams that actually have a better track record of drafting, I'd be scared. But now I'm like, this is great. Like Indianapolis won't have these draft picks for a couple years. This is great because, to be honest with you, I know they've gone all in, but I don't believe in Daniel Jones. I think they're going to have made all these trades and mortgage their futures with no Super Bowl to show for it. That's my prediction. I just don't see how you can have a Super. And I could be wrong. The Ravens won with Trent Dilfer, so I could be wrong. But my prediction is that all of these trades, they will have mortgaged their future to not win a Super Bowl.
Well, think about it. This is all what's at the epicenter of all of this is that they didn't hit on Anthony Richardson. When you don't hit on your first round quarterbacks, you're in a world of hurt. A world of hurt. Yeah. And that's where they find themselves right now. So,
well, why don't we get to, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, but Jeff gave an interesting nugget on what was going on in the inside the Ravens facility with Jaire Alexander in that trade. But let's get to that in a minute because I know we got a guest in the waiting room.
Yeah, that'll be good because Howie Roseman spoke on it too from a Philadelphia perspective. So all that and more is what we have coming up. We appreciate you guys for being with us on this Wednesday. And here's what's happening right now. We're going game preview a lot earlier than we typically do. Sarah, you and I are taking off Friday. I'm Belize bound tomorrow to celebrate my mom's 60th. So a Wednesday game preview, why not? And to do it, we're bringing in Vikings insider, longtime Minnesota reporter, friend of the program. Are you still with Blue Wire? We used to be Blue Wire teammates. Nobody cares about that, but we do care about Matthew Coller's perspective. Great to have you on the program, man. And we always like to begin with, particularly when it comes to an NFC team that we just don't get to watch, quite frankly, all that often. What is the state of the 4-4 Minnesota Vikings entering Week 10, Matt?
Oh, man, it's crazy because if you asked after every single week, the state of the team would be wildly different. This is the most roller coastered I have been since covering the team. I started 2016, and that season started out 5-0, and they missed the playoffs. So that just tells you how crazy this has been. After the first week of the season, I won't take you through all 8 weeks, but after the first week of the season, it's J.J. McCarthy is a winner, last-second win against the Chicago Bears. The next week, J.J. McCarthy's a bust. He's also injured. Then he's out for 5 weeks. People think he was soft benched. Maybe Carson Wentz is going to take over, and that happens. And then for a minute, we're like, well, actually, Carson Wentz is playing pretty well. Maybe they will develop McCarthy and stick with Wentz for a while because it is a win-now team, win-now season. And then the wheels come off. Carson Wentz is hurt. Kevin O'Connell leaves Wentz in the game for a couple of more series than he probably should. Wentz is injured on national TV. Everybody criticizes O'Connell. And here comes JJ McCarthy back, and we're thinking, I don't know, season's probably over. All the data people have the Vikings % chance to go to the playoffs at about 10%. They're going to Detroit as 9.5-point underdogs. Detroit will probably beat them 38-3. And then they pull out a win. JJ McCarthy plays well. The defense looks like the group that we expected them to be for the entire year that they had not been. And now it's, I don't know, where are they hosting the Super Bowl this year? So it's just, it has been really wild. But I think for the very first time, when you ask about like a vibe check, for the very first time, this has felt like the 2025 Minnesota Vikings that we expected them to be when they were in training camp. The group that we saw together before they dealt with a bunch of injuries, backup quarterbacks, injuries on the defensive side. This is very, very close to the full team that they built in the offseason. And that's kind of a rare thing that you could be this far in and say, oh yeah, actually, this is the healthy version. It was at the beginning of the season where they were playing at about 60% health with a lot of different injuries and a Jordan Addison suspension. So where that takes us from here, I have no idea, but at least they can say McCarthy at quarterback, the healthy O-line, the healthy defense. This is the strength that they should be, the team that we saw beat the Detroit Lions on Sunday.
Matt, thanks for joining us. Yeah, that sounds a lot like the Ravens, at least on the defensive side. When you get back a Roquan Smith or a Marlon Humphrey or guys like that, it does tend to help. So it sounds like there's some overlap there. And then when you get Lamar back, that's also going to help. So, but let's dive into JJ McCarthy a little bit more. Like you said, it sounds like it's pretty, like a roller coaster. 1 minute he's a bust and injured, and the next minute he's like Super Bowl bound. What's your kind of like trying to cut through the emotion? What do you expect from JJ McCarthy the rest of the season, and obviously specifically against the Ravens Sunday?
Yeah, so with JJ McCarthy, I think what they bought into in the offseason and the reason they were willing to let Sam Darnold go was because of the traits that JJ McCarthy has. So we're talking about arm strength, athleticism, leadership, toughness, work ethic, all that sort of stuff. And just intangibles, I think, were through the roof coming out in the draft. And that's one of the reasons that he was picked as high as he was, despite the fact that he didn't throw that many passes at Michigan. He didn't have some sort of crazy, insane Cam Newton workout or anything like that. But when you add up all of the traits and then the personality, that you expect that person under the right circumstances has a chance to be a franchise quarterback. And they were also betting on what they have, which is Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. They invested a lot in the offensive line. Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill, highly paid tackles, first-round guard in Donovan Jackson, Will Fries at right guard. Ryan Kelly is still out, but even Ryan Kelly at center has been in the NFL for a long time and is a good player. They added to their backfield. So the whole idea was you could take this young quarterback and you could give him everything that you could ask for a quarterback, coach him up with Kevin O'Connell, and then profit, right? And I think that as we went along in training camp, we started to see, right. We're seeing it come together. We're seeing those traits on a daily basis. We're seeing him get more and more comfortable with the offense. And after the Chicago game, it was like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to look, where there's going to be some young quarterback times where it's frustrating and he's inaccurate or he doesn't, get them to the line of scrimmage in time because that's how it goes, right? And I think we still saw all of that in Detroit, where there's these high-end moments that are incredibly exciting, where it's a rocket pass to Jordan Addison. It's at the end of the game, a touch pass to Jalen Naylor. He's running for a touchdown, and he looked a little Lamar Jackson-like with a one-on-one with Alex Anzalone in space and jukes him out, goes into the end zone. Like those types of things are first-round quarterback stuff. But we also saw 5-6 plays in the game where you went, that's rookie quarterback stuff. inaccurate throws, a decision on an interception that actually got turned over and didn't count as a pick, but it was a very bad decision that he made, just kind of launching the ball down the field. He took 5 sacks, can't take 5 sacks every single week. And one of them was a 14-yard loss that took them from scoring position all the way to forcing a 50-yard field goal. So to me, the season has been a roller coaster, but even within every game we've seen JJ McCarthy, it's been a roller coaster as well. And what the Vikings are trying to do is smooth out the down parts by running the football effectively, which they did last week. Easy button plays. They had a swing pass that was technically counted as a run that went for 30 yards. They had a screen pass on a 3rd down that turned into a 1st down. And then say to JJ McCarthy 4 or 5 times a game, go be a 1st-round draft pick and do something special, and then don't have big turnover plays. And you've got a chance to win a lot of games, especially if the defense is playing the way that it is. So I think the confidence in him being a bit up and down and a bit rocky and still learning how to play the position is high because of the positive things that they've seen so far.
That 3rd down conversion under 2 minutes on Sunday to ice the game to Jalen Noel, you're thinking to yourself, all right, there's going to be a lot of people that are stat sheet watching, right? Trying to analyze JJ's game that maybe didn't have a chance to actually watch it. And if you do that, it's not enough to actually truly see the impact that he had coming back from that injury for them. I want to cut to something that Kevin O'Connell said in preparation for Lamar Jackson earlier this week and get your thoughts on the other side.
Your defense in practice, the Lamar Jackson look, do you just have Max do it, or do you use other players?
I'm actually going to do it this week. Yeah, no, I'm going to lace him up and figure that'll give him the best look at the athleticism that Lamar has. No, we've I'm sure we'll have. I think it's important. It might be a bunch of different players. From a standpoint, I think how Max and John take those reps at the quarterback position, where even if JG wins on a rush and tags him off, or Hargrave wins up the middle and tags him off, like, we're going to have those plays finish every single play, to the long past any whistle that I would blow, just to make sure the guys on the back end are plastering in coverage and understanding that some of the big plays that they make, it's not how they were drawn up. But then, what I think Lamar has done at such a high level to become one of the best at the position in the NFL is make the throws in rhythm accurately and finding the open guys, knowing exactly where he needs to have his feet and eyes set and being accurate. I think he's there's a reason why he's an MVP caliber player and one of the best at the position in the league. It's not just the skill set to cause so many problems athletically. He's an elite thrower of the football, and he's really processing. So you've got to play total team, complete defense, discipline. The rush plan needs to be absolutely ironclad, and we've got to still find a way to get that early down knockback and defend the run with Derrick Henry and all the things that they present that way. So I think it's going to be a lot of guys. It might be some other players, non-quarterbacks, going in there. I don't know that yet. I just know it won't be me. No, it's it's probably something that I don't know if it definitely doesn't need to be a secret, because when Baltimore rolls into town, it's not a secret about who's playing quarterback for him and what he's capable of doing.
All right, we're hoping that you have something up your sleeve in terms of revealing said secrets, even though apparently it's not a secret. But enter the Brian Flores defense, top 10 in passing defense, 3rd down defense, red zone defense, the 14th overall ranked unit league-wide. He's had individually with past units success against Lamar. You got to go all the way back to 2021 in Miami. I know the live chat's already screaming at me for bringing that up. Yes, they have an answer for cover 0 blitz. We get it. But Matt, what does Brian Flores think is the best answer for success against Lamar coming up on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think that O'Connell did cover it pretty well, that there's no easy answer for Lamar Jackson, because you can do everything perfect and still give up a 50-yard touchdown because of his explosiveness, his playmaking. What we saw last week against Detroit was about as different of a quarterback as you're ever going to see. Jared Goff, who is completely immobile, and if you move him 1 inch off of his spot, he turns into a completely different player. but I still think the bones of what they did last week are going to be pretty similar. They used a lot of 3 defensive tackles on the field at the same time with Jalen Redmond, along with Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. So rather than kind of a traditional type of, 4 defensive lineman look, now it was more of a 3-4 old school type of look that you would have seen maybe from the Ravens in, 2005 or something like that. They used Eric Wilson as an outside linebacker and put 3 linebackers on the field with Ivan Pace and Blake Cashman. And a lot of what they did was rush up the middle with their linebackers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, again, like 25 years ago, used to do this all the time, where they would have 2 inside linebackers blitz. And I'm sure you guys saw that a ton against Kyle Bowler or something, but back in the day. But they did that a lot against Jared Goff. And I think that if you do that against the Ravens, you do risk a little bit of he can scramble, he can get to the outside. If he gets to the edge, it's going to be a huge problem. But I also think that this is a real strength of theirs, is having 2 outside linebackers in Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, who can cover as well as any linebacker in the league. So they were using a lot of deception of not knowing who's going to rush when. And Van Ginkel being back, I think, was the biggest game changer for them, because Dallas Turner, who is a former first-round pick, was trying to play that role. But that role is extremely complicated. On one play I saw on tape, Andrew Van Ginkel go from looking like it was absolutely going to be him in man coverage to absolutely he's going to rush the quarterback to then he drops back into a zone. And you're like, oh, that's probably really easy for quarterbacks to figure out, right? So I think what they want to do is to try to make Lamar Jackson sort through a lot of different types of looks at the line of scrimmage, not know where the rush is going to come from. And maybe part of the idea will be rush from one area and then delay from the other. So you're going to overload one side. Okay, he's going to scramble out the other way, but then somebody else, and Blake Cashman does this as well as anyone, where, I'm dropping back into coverage, but actually I'm not. That kind of rush against Jackson. But I mean, you're talking about one of the best players, not just in the NFL, but over the last decade, and pushing toward one of the best quarterbacks in history. So, and these, you can have the best laid plans. I think where the concern would be for the Vikings is still in coverage. Like last week, they gave up a 40-yard touchdown to Sam Laporta, a 30-something yard touchdown to Jamison Williams. They gave up a perfect quarterback rating to Jalen Hurts. What's the common theme here? Down the field passing. And their ability to stay with receivers one-on-one deep down the field, where Lamar has one of the best deep balls in the entire NFL. I think that's where this game can be won if you're talking about the Ravens, maybe more than him scrambling and running for big plays, is him in the pocket, if they could give him time, being able to find receivers deep, because the Vikings coverage, it's been very questionable when it comes to downfield so far this year.
Well, and yeah, so on the Ravens side, the key for that will obviously to be a successful run game and make the Vikings stack the box. Now, I was looking at the graphic that Bobby had up a few minutes ago. Vikings defense are ranked number 20 against the rush, the running game. Is that because of injuries? Have you guys had return? Like, what's your analysis on the rush defense?
Yeah, that one's really interesting because Saquon Barkley and Jahmyr Gibbs did nothing against this team, but Kamani Vidal went for 150. It's kind of crazy how it's been, but I think with this defense, what is really, really important is that they play from ahead. And because when they've been put in positions where they're playing from behind, like against the Los Angeles Chargers or to some extent the Eagles, but earlier games this year, Atlanta got ahead of them and just gave the ball to Bijan Robinson. You can really control the game because even though they are using these 3 defensive tackles in kind of an old school 3-4 way, Hargrave and Allen at their points of their careers into their 30s, these guys are pass rushers for the most part. Unless you have a really favorable matchup like Hargrave did last week on the interior of Detroit. So you, I think, are looking to get in positions where you're forcing the opponent to have to drop back and pass a lot, where you're playing from, up 10 points or something like that, like they were through a lot of that game against Detroit. Because if the Vikings are down 10 points and the opposing team, especially someone like Baltimore, can just hand off, lean on the run game, use Lamar's legs, and not feel like they're scrambling to try to come back, then I think you can wear down this defense. I do think that they have resolved some plans. One of the things that they use is run blitzes, where they just take the linebackers and just send them at a gap. And that's an adjustment that they've made against good running teams because they don't have defensive tackles that can just, Tony Saragusa isn't walking through the door for the Vikings where you could just stick, 3 guys in the middle or something like that. They don't have Michael Pierce anymore. So it's a little bit of a difficult thing for them to consistently stop the run. But once again, where it's all changed is with health. And Andrew Van Ginkel coming back. This guy's one of the best tacklers in the NFL. I think he's one of the best players in the entire NFL. And he can set edges unlike what Dallas Turner could do. And I think teams were really just attacking that edge a lot. So I think this is a team that is in a much better position to stop the run against Derrick Henry than maybe they were a couple of weeks ago.
Low hanging fruit, but I would assume both teams would kill to have Michael Pierce back on their active rosters right now with the way that they're currently constructed. But last one for me is just the overall health situation. You mentioned Van Ginkel a second ago, though, but team wide, where are they at health wise?
By far, runaway the best position that they have been in. It's not even close. I mean, it's been very, I think, annoying for Kevin O'Connell to ask or to have to answer questions week after week about a whole litany of players that were banged up. But the biggest one, other than Van Ginkel, but the biggest one on the offensive side is very clear, and that is Christian Darrisaw, where he was coming back from a very severe ACL injury that was suffered last year, and he was getting into some games. Some of them he finished, some of them he had to come out, and we were kind of throwing our hands up a little bit like, what is happening with this left tackle where he plays 9 snaps against the Los Angeles Chargers. They're over in London against the Browns, and halfway through the game, he's just out. But I think it's getting back to 100% for him, and he was amazing against the Detroit Lions. I mean, this is one of the best players, I think, in the league as well at left tackle. And he made the impact that we used to see from him before he suffered that ACL injury in both the run and the pass game. If he's 100%, then they could do so much more because their first round draft pick Donovan Jackson on the left side has been very good as well. He also missed some time earlier this year. So those two haven't played together a ton. When we finally saw it, you can run behind them. You know that you're going to be sturdy in pass protection over there. The only real injury that is impacting them in a major way is Ryan Kelly being out now. And they're playing Blake Brandel, who was a former tackle, then former guard, and now center. And he's got a good command of the offense, but when he played Jalen Carter, it was kind of a bloodbath. And last week did a much better job. So it's been up and down with the backup center, but that's the area that can be attacked is the middle, rushing up the middle, sending blitzes up the middle. And I think the Ravens will probably do that against Blake Brandel. But other than that, they are a very healthy team. We're also going to be keeping an eye on Aaron Jones's shoulder. He hurt it last week, and he looked like the old Aaron Jones last week for the first time this year. So it's usually what happens is a team starts out healthy, and then halfway through the season, you're going, oh man, they're missing a bunch of players. For the Vikings, it's been the exact opposite way.
All right, Matthew, the biggest keys of the game, 1 or 2 keys, and your score prediction.
Okay. Well, I think for the Vikings, probably number 1 is to get J.J. McCarthy going early. Last week, his confidence went through the roof when the first drive they came out, converted a 3rd down. He made a really nice pass that actually didn't get caught to Jordan Addison, but it was a nice touch pass down the sideline. And it was like, okay, I'm back, right? And I think that having that feeling for him very early in the game is going to be really, really important for the Vikings offense. Get him some easy completions, get points on the board early on. From the defensive side, it's, probably what we talked about with, Derrick Henry. If they can run with Derrick Henry, then what can't they do against this defense? Because you're not going to have shutdown corners, and then it's going to get worn out. You're going to be on the field all day for a defense. And as far as a score prediction, see, this is hard because when you beat the Lions, then you're like, well, they should beat everyone, right? They should just win all the games if they could beat the Lions. But I think the expectation here is that this is the team they were expected to be at US Bank Stadium, the atmosphere, the defense plays better here by far. So I guess I would go maybe Vikings like 27-24, kind of the way it was against Detroit, but I don't know. I also don't want to be the guy that always picks his team. I picked them to lose last week, so I don't know. Who knows, right?
Good context. Let us know and let everybody know. We know where we can find you, but let everybody else know where they can find you, including in the Twitter space at Matthew Coller. And Sarah was asking about the book in our pre-show meeting, and I was like, I know he's an author, but I don't know a ton about what he's actually written about. So if you want to take 60 seconds to share it, it'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. Well, anybody can find my work. Purpleinsider.com houses everything, the YouTube, the audio, the written stuff. And the book is Football is a Numbers Game, where I spent a year and a half learning about the analytics revolution in the NFL through the lens of Pro Football Focus's rise and what PFF does for teams, because everybody hears like, oh, that they work with teams, but what do they actually do? What's their influence? Where did they come from? How do they do them grades, which, comes up almost on a weekly basis somewhere on social media. And so I sought to learn that story. And I think we've seen so many things change in football because of the analytics revolution that maybe we don't even realize or know that are happening. So looked into all that in Football is a Numbers Game. And if your audience is interested, I do the same thing as you guys, live stream and answer questions and things like that on YouTube. So it's good.
You're busy.
Oh yeah. Well, this team, they never let us sleep.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, we appreciate you carving out some time. We know you got a press conference to get to, and we will definitely, anybody that wants the Minnesota perspective between now and Sunday, hopefully they'll go check you out over the next few days. And thanks again for the time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I'm absolutely thrilled for your guys' success. I know, Bobby, we talked a while back when you guys were really getting rolling, and it's been awesome to see. And anytime you can get Steve Young back on, by the way, that would be pretty cool. I love hearing that's like my all-time favorite quarterback. So that was very cool. So best of luck to you guys in the future, and thanks for having me on.
I have my co-host to thank for that one. There's a strong BYU connection there for sure. And Sarah, you probably don't even know that, but I definitely leaned on Matt earlier on, getting started with Blue Wire, getting our show off the ground. And you always answered, which was, very appreciative of that.
Heard great things about you, Matthew, from Bobby for sure.
Yeah. Anytime, guys. And thanks again for having me. Appreciate it.
Man.
Appreciate
Enjoy it. That's great stuff right there. And he's right. he was very, very helpful. He was a couple years down the line in front of us with getting our audio only show off the ground 4 years ago, almost at this point. So thanks to him, and hopefully you guys got something out of that when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. And Sarah, being that it's going to be a little bit of a unique next couple days leading into the weekend, I have to give my prediction because this is the last time I'll be on the air up until game day, at least on the Vault. So look, the Ravens are going to continue. I am on record for saying they're going to continue to make things interesting. And if that's the case, then they need this game because it's the next one on Sunday. And I do think that while Brian Flores and this defense will present challenges, I think that Todd Monken's going to have answers for those challenges. I got the Ravens beating Minnesota 28-24. I liked what Matt had to say, some of the perspective there on the vertical passing attack. Because as we know, if Lamar doesn't have to use his mobility, he's probably not going to want to, because I can't imagine he's 100% yet. So if that's an area of weakness, if you will, for this Minnesota Vikings defense, then I like Todd Monken's chances and Lamar's of exploiting that, on top of the fact that, as you mentioned and pointed out specifically, there has been an open opportunity to successfully run the football. They're susceptible to a good, solid downhill running team, which the Ravens can be and are at their core. So I got 28-24. Little concerned about how Brian tightens up in the red zone, because the Ravens have tightened up as well. A lot of that is due to Lamar being out, but they've had some drag inside the 20s this year. That's where Minnesota typically bends but does not break. You had the numbers up earlier on. They're top 10 defense in a number of different categories, and the red zone is one of them. As you see right there, they're the 5th ranked red zone defense. They're 7th on third down and 8th against the pass, 20th against the run, which stood out to you, which is, I'm guessing, why you asked it. So
they are -4 in turnovers.
They are.
The Ravens are -3, but Ravens are trending up.
Yep.
So I was going to ask, but we were running out of time, about if you can force JJ McCarthy in his youth to make some bad mistakes
Yep.
with that
Yep.
football. Bobby, I think that's great. So you have the Ravens winning by 3. Did you have it?
28-24.
Okay, by 4. Can I just make one observation?
Sure.
Okay. Since you declared the Ravens cooked, you have predicted 3 wins. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Yep.
But I know you also said they're going to make things interesting.
Yep.
So I'm sure you'll be predicting some losses at some point, maybe when they hit the AFC North stretch.
Correct. And this could very well be one of them. But 28-24 is what I'm going with. And there's going to be a trap game sprinkled in there at some point. And there's a ton of AFC North games coming up, as we know.
That's actually a good question, though. Can there be a trap game when you're basically in playoff mode?
Well, by definition, probably not. But
like trap games are usually when you're like feeling good. You're like 7-2 or 6-3, and you're feeling pretty good about yourself. You're leading your division. It's like, whoops, got a little sucked in on that, thinking that we were a little too confident. I don't know that you have the luxury of trap games when you're 3-5.
I guess
you should be the trap game. You should be the people trapping others.
It's correct. I guess the definition in this case would probably be, okay, they're winners of 2 in a row. If they rip off a third and then a fourth, then it's like, all right, they're riding high in terms of the streak, not in terms of the win-loss record. That's the only thing I could think of that would qualify as a trap game. So appreciate Matt for his time. Hopefully you guys will tweet a thank you to him if you got something out of that. And Sarah, of course, will have more on all things the way you're viewing this one coming up later this week. And just a reminder, we will not have a show on Friday. You will be Sarah solo tomorrow. That's Thursday the 6th. Femi will be dropping by for a guest segment. And then you and I, of course, will have our usual game day coverage coming up on Sunday. It's Ravens-Vikings in Minnesota at 1 o'clock.
Now, Bobby, we weren't flashing up just because Matt was on here. Super chats. Do we need to address any? I don't know how many came in.
Yeah, definitely.
There for a minute.
Definitely. Let's see. Yeah, we'll just kind of go. We'll start from the bottom and work our way up.
I got it from where we were at. Real quick, Vince wanted to say, hey, Bobby, good talking to you last night on your personal channel. I did make it home safely driving while talking, so he gives you an update that he's safe.
Yeah, I always feel guilty sometimes taking these calls when folks are behind the wheel. I don't know. It's just it's one of those tricky things. Yes, it can be done, and I'm glad you made it home, Vinny. Robbie Pate says, we've had so many chances to get an offensive lineman in the draft. Shaking my head. Do better, EDC. Matthew's celebrating 8 months of channel membership with us, Sarah.
Good for Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. I think we need to keep in mind we may never know who EDC tried to get and couldn't as well. Let's see here. What's the next one?
We got Dreams in the house. And he says, at this point, I wish they had the logic of the Cowboys who drafted first-round offensive linemen year after year. Since we already have the weapons, this quarterback is generational. Maurice Givens is here. He says, I meant for a new head coach to play with, even after a Super Bowl dub. And that was going back to something earlier on when it came to clearing cap space or at least not using cap space. What's up, Paul?
Paul says, Draymond Jones is a best bang for the buck move, rooting for the best, but hear the fans. I'm tired of EDC getting 6-round picks like infinity stones.
King Lee says, Sarah and Bobby, please, for the city, please play. Excuse me.
Please pray.
Sarah and Bobby, please pray for the city of Louisville. There was a horrific plane crash yesterday. The clips have been all over and circulating the internet. So yes, we join you in prayer on that, King, for sure. Nuru Dean is here.
He's got a good message for anyone facing seasonal depression. We read Eric Hill's email yesterday about that. He says, I can't recommend enough. You get a moonlight and use it in the evenings. My Verilux Happy Light has helped a ton. Listen, everybody should obviously talk to their doctors if they're dealing with depression. I have heard that helps. I would also recommend vitamin D. Over-the-counter vitamin D works wonders in the wintertime.
And as you mentioned a minute ago, this is I'm guessing this is an extension from what we read yesterday at One More Thing. An awesome email from Eric Hill. Omar Sherman says, Ravens yesterday, but I'm not going anywhere. LOL. Lamar's Superman. Us to the bowl, please. What is PMO? Do I even want to know? Habitual line stepper for you.
He says it's crazy to see fans try to defend a GM who inherited a team with training wheels. 8 years with an MVP quarterback and 0 appearances. Ozzie did it in 4 to 5 years. And again, I'll just say I thought they had Super Bowl rosters the last 2 years. I think that was more on the players and coaches. Go ahead.
I think we all did. Ginger Seamus is celebrating 3 months. Thanks for your support. EDC seems to want our players to step up and play like Ravens. And Isaiah says the stream was fire yesterday, Bobby. And Sarah, I somewhat agree, but I think Quinnen is worth the gamble. Appreciate all of you guys for being with us on this Wednesday. Over 3,000 concurrents. If you could on the way in, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership. And as always, you can go visit thevaultpod.com/shop if you're interested in snagging that hoodie that I was wearing and a bunch of other options that we have on our apparel line. I was wearing that hoodie earlier on in the week. I got some comments on it. People were reaching out. It's thevaultpod.com/shop. Let's talk about Jaire Alexander, Sarah. It was a short-lived tenure in Baltimore. He is traded over the weekend, meaning this past one, prior to the deadline, to Philadelphia. Howie Roseman and Eric DaCosta obviously speak often, I tend to think. And in this case, I guess Philly gets a player that the Ravens weren't going to use because it was pretty obvious, the writing was on the wall, that Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey, Cheeto, and maybe even TJ Tampa were in front of him, and he doesn't play special teams. They played him 30% of the defensive snap share week 1 in Buffalo. He looked like a shell of himself. He had his knee drained at the start of training camp and had the PCL procedure back in January, and ultimately could not agree on a restructured contract with the Green Bay Packers. Anything you wanted to discuss before we throw to a couple things that we have?
Yeah, let's go to Jeff. Remember yesterday, very quickly, because we were running out of time, I was just like, wow, that was an interesting answer from John Harbaugh when he was asked about Jaire Alexander, why he was traded, and, you know, his thoughts on his time here. And it was like, oh, it was just a trade deadline kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then didn't have anything else to say. And I was like, that was a strange answer. And I feel like what Jeff said on the collective with you last night brought to light a little bit why he maybe not have been, I don't know. He didn't appear happy. I'll just say that. But here's Jeff.
I think it's a little risky for the Ravens because if they get a corner injury now and one of their veterans goes out, now all of a sudden they get pretty thin there. They've lost Jalen Armour-Davis through a waiver claim, or I think it was, right? Yeah, they lost him to a waiver claim early, and now Jaire's gone. If they get an injury there, now they're awful thin there. So I think that they have that in mind. And they would have liked to keep Jaire in a lot of ways. I think they're sort of, but I also think they wanted to do right by Jaire. And you could tell it was taxing him, right? They could tell. I mean, I think I didn't hear of anything negative behind the scenes. By all accounts, this guy handled it great. I mean, you guys should see this guy's workouts, like on the field before the game. I mean, he was getting after it. He was staying ready. He badly wanted to play, but I think this was really wearing on him, not getting an opportunity. I mean, he's trying to save his career, right? I mean, this was the season where he was supposed to save his career and get another extension from somebody after the season, and he's not getting an opportunity to play. So I think the Ravens were caught in a situation where there was no immediate path to playing for him. You can't predict the future and say, we're going to get injuries, so we're keeping you and you're going to play. And knowing that it just wasn't working for him and not wanting to have any issues going forward in the locker room. And then you get the benefit of a little cap savings and a draft pick, and it just made sense to do it. But, you know, I think they were a little disappointed by this because I think they really liked him. I really do. I think he made a really good impression. I mean, we saw Chuck Pagano's tweet after they traded him. I think they really liked this guy and they really wanted to work out, but he just got caught in a set of circumstances where, you know, they probably pushed him or he pushed himself, a combination, to play in that week 1. And then it just snowballed on him. He was trying to play catch up and the team was losing and they couldn't afford to give up snaps to, you know, anything but guys they deemed their best. And he just sort of got buried on the depth chart, doesn't play special teams. So if he's not playing defense, you can't have him on the game day roster because there's just no, you know, it's tough just to keep a guy who you need 2 injuries to put in the game. on game days. So it just didn't work out. But would it surprise me if he makes some plays for the Eagles? No, not at all. I mean, they're really well coached defensively. They create a lot of pressure on the quarterback when, those big guys inside are going. And
yeah, I think that pretty much, it was more that the part that really stuck out to me on that, Bobby, was that the Ravens didn't really want to trade him. So I think that's why maybe John didn't seem so happy. Maybe John wanted to keep him. And it was more like them giving a nod to Jaire because they couldn't promise him that he was going to get on the field. But like you said, it was somewhat of a risk for the Ravens to trade him. Listen, when he did play, he wasn't playing well. And Awuzie was, and there were people that were playing there were others that were playing better. But you would have liked to have had the depth just in case. And I know that they've been to TJ Tampa before, but how do you not like Jaire Alexander? Like even when he isn't playing well, he's just got such an effusive personality. He's so likable. He's so lovable. Sounds like from Jeff that they liked him, would have liked to have kept both as a person and as a player. And you can see that from Chuck Pagano and like the tweet he put out. And so I think they were just doing right by him. He didn't formally ask for a trade, according to Jeff, but was very much wanting to play. And I get it because he wants to revive his career. He doesn't want to be stuck as number CB 4 or 5. What if he never gets his day and he needs to show somebody that he can play so he can make money in the offseason? So I get it. I appreciate them doing right by him, but I think it leaves them without a great guy and perhaps some depth if something happens.
It leaves them susceptible to the chance that everybody takes when you step on an NFL field. The Philadelphia perspective?
Just when he signed in June with Baltimore, thinking what a great signing by them. And obviously it didn't work out for the way that he wanted or that they wanted, or he wouldn't have been available to us. But the relationship we have with Baltimore and being able to have honest conversations and understanding what he went through a little bit in training camp and getting back to health, obviously missed a lot of time last year. And then just really doing a deep dive on him and how successful he's been, what we thought of him last year, when we were in Brazil playing them, and then for the first part of the year, and then having CP who's with him and getting to know the mindset of the player. And so, sometimes, you get in this league, you acquire information, you watch everything, and you feel like, hey, the risk is worth the reward here. And I think when you talk about still a young guy, knowing where his health is at now, feeling healthy, feeling good, we felt like the risk was worth the reward with him.
What's ironic, and you already alluded to this in a sense, right? They're really, the only risk attached here is for the Ravens, one. And two, what's even more ironic is I can remember saying very similar messaging with you after this acquisition. There's very little risk here, right? and maybe medium to high level reward. It got nowhere close to that. So if Philadelphia, as Jeff notes, that I can't remember if it actually got to this point in the clip that we just had, but Jeff was like, will I be surprised if he's out there making plays in the coming weeks for Philadelphia? Right. No, I won't. And nor should any of us be surprised if that's the case in the coming weeks as he tries to help the Eagles repeat.
Yeah, I mean that's funny. I mean, Howie's a good GM, obviously, but I'm calling BS on that. Like he's puffing up his chest more. Like the risk is worth the gamble. What risk? You got Jaire Alexander and a 7th for your 6th rounder. And by the way, the Ravens 7th rounder, we'll see. I don't know. Their 7th rounder is going to be pretty close to where your 6th rounder is going to be. Like you really took no risk. You're just fine. It's more the Ravens saying goodbye to a potential depth piece if something happens. That was funny.
Yeah, Howie he deserves a benefit. He can get up there and say whatever he wants, and Eagles
fans say whatever he wants coming up with a Super Bowl win. Yeah,
smiling out.
Yes,
smiling
Howie,
out.
You take aggressive risks. Good job.
Too funny. Let's get some quick hits in here. Derrick Henry's on a media tour in recent days for State Farm. He's got a sponsorship with them. So he was on with ESPN. He was on with Rich Eisen. He was on with Mike Florio, and you pulled in one or two.
And Kay Adams, we'll just do one because we got to get out of here. But basically, while everybody on the outside is talking about the trade and what's happening, obviously on the inside, this offense better not be like as upset with EDC as some of the fan base is, because that's not how you look at things. I know they're not that way. They're like, let's do our job. This is, in my view, a Super Bowl caliber offense. Defense has a lot to be desired left for us to want more from the defense. But the offense is a Super Bowl caliber roster. And we've known from the beginning, from early on, that the offense is going to have to carry the day. And hopefully they have to carry less weight with some of the trades and moves that EDC did make. And I feel like we've seen that in the last couple of days, albeit against lesser opponents. But the offense still needs to be putting up 30 plus more. That's what this offense needs to be aspiring to. And if you ask Derrick Henry, what's his confidence level of making the playoffs? Apparently you can't get much more confident than he is right now.
3-5. Now there are plenty of teams we look at and they're 3-5.
And also, sorry, I recorded this on double speed, which is where I live my life. I wish we could do this whole podcast in double speed, although other people can put us in double speed, but I wish I could talk in double speed. Anyway, let's get back to it.
They're basically done. It feels very different for the Ravens. What's the team's current confidence level, scale of 1 to 10, that this is going to end in a playoff appearance?
Bro, we have 10. We have all the confidence. We just got to be consistent and execute on all 3 phases each week and play our style of football to give ourselves the best chance to win. We're going to go every game confident in what we do and through our preparation. And we just got to go out there and let it show on game days.
Boom. Can we all talk that way in everyday life? With so much more could be said, and we could be so much more efficient with our time. But that's King Henry. He's at a 10. That's where I want the offense to be. You're at 10. Let's get to the playoffs and see what happens.
Oh, man. Just knowing how monotone he typically speaks, for him to be sped up like that makes it even funnier than it actually is. The latest from Kalshi, and I brought this in this time. How about that? Here's what I got for you guys. Kalshi Sports tweeted out earlier this morning, crazy but true, the 3-5 Ravens have a better chance to win the AFC than the following teams. And there's several division leaders amongst these. The Broncos and Patriots being 2 of them, Pittsburgh being another. The Chargers and Jaguars also on this list. Those 5 teams have worse chances to win the AFC than the Ravens do right now. So just throwing that out there.
Oh.
Kalshi Sports keeping up with. So you're telling me there's a chance?
That's crazy. It is crazy. I mean, the Broncos and Patriots are 7-2, and the Ravens have better chances. Let's go.
Amazing.
To win the AFC. What?
Amazing.
Kalshi's a believer.
Yes,
based off of the math.
Yes, it is.
It's crazy.
What other quick hits we got here? You got
I think
something?
We're good.
Okay,
nah,
we're good
I'll do it tomorrow. You're out. I'll give my prediction. Femi Ayimandeja will be here with me tomorrow. We've got press conferences today. John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, and company. So tomorrow I will review those press conferences. I'll have Femi on here. We'll talk about all the big issues, and then Femi and I will do all the big topics. I shouldn't say issues. All the big topics. Some of them will be issues. And then we'll give our predictions for Ravens Vikings tomorrow.
Looking forward to that. Watching from the plains, Stephen Fear the Turtle and Jason Zarotniak. Thank you both for believing in what we're building. This is your monthly shout out because of the consistent support that you give us through Patreon, and we appreciate you both. So thanks for all the love. Guys, if you're interested in doing the same, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast if you're interested in learning more, like I said. So thanks to Steve, thanks to Jason, thanks to Femi in advance for tomorrow. And partner, you and I will be off on Friday. So mark your calendars accordingly. No show on Friday. I will be live from a resort on an island in Belize. So there's going to be much more to come on that. A lot of content to come from it. And I'm excited to celebrate my mom's 60th. So glad all of our logistics worked out, Sarah, in our favor to finish out the week. We thank Matthew Coller for all things Vikings and the content and coverage that he provided earlier on. That episode will be repurposed so you can get ready for week 10 on Sunday coming up later. It'll be a 4:00 drop, as it always is in our best of playlist. So go check that out later on today.
Enjoy your trip. Enjoy your trip and tell your mother happy birthday from me.
Sounds
good.
You
guys have a blast.
Hers is the 10th. Tori's is the 14th. So it'll be fun to kind of blend those together. And, mom deserves to be celebrated. And I'll have a lot more on how we kind of made this whole thing work. And a Ravens fan is the reason why this trip is happening is the long story short. Maybe I'll talk about it on the post-game show for a couple minutes once we finish up the content that night. But it's a fun story, and I'm really looking forward to making it happen for my mom. She's deserving. So it looks like by the way, Dre'Mont Jones making his practice debut. He's wearing number 41.
Excellent.
Was that pass worn by Anthony Levine Sr.? Why do I feel like
I feel like
co-cap
it was
with
41.
41? Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so good sign for Dre'Mont Sarah to potentially be available for them on Sunday, and then we'll have to look and see if Carl Lawson, their vet that they signed in a couple weeks ago, might make his debut for them, and it will be his 2025 season debut, whereas Dre'Mont's been playing, the previous 9 weeks with Tennessee. So appreciate you guys as always. Let me just make sure we're fully caught up. Yes, we are on Super Chats. Thanks to everybody who donated, and thanks to Wellness Plus Care for the continued support. As we always say, you're directly supporting the show when you choose to support our brand sponsor. So if you're in the Hunt Valley area, maybe go check out Wellness Plus Care. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett, and for Matthew Coller, I'm Bobby Trossett, signing off from this Wednesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. Sarah and Femi will be with you tomorrow. Sarah will get the show started as she always does, and as we always do at 12 noon Eastern. And until then, VAULTRONs, thank you for always coming to hang with us. And for those of you that didn't catch us in real time and also in the audio-only space, we hear you, we appreciate you, and we feel you. So thank you. We'll catch up with you guys soon. For me, it'll be on game day, week 10 Sunday.